Hey, what's good, fam? Welcome to another episode of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. Derek and Jeff coming to you from Scottsdale, Arizona. And today we've got the pleasure of chatting with serial entrepreneur Jon Boles. What's good, homie?
How's it going?
Real good, dude. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
I'm humbled that you guys even want me on here, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here, dude.
Jeff met you at Kyle Mock's event and has gave me the cliff notes of your story.
Yeah.
And when he told me that you were willing to jump on the mic with us, man, I got super pumped. So.
Absolutely. No, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. So
honored.
Just the cliff notes of your journey, man. You've built multiple. You're on your 9th company now.
I believe eighth
company now, and you're also in the coaching space as well.
Correct.
Right. And we were just talking offline about how your network is the equivalent of your net worth.
Absolutely.
And you're now in a space, you've evolved in your journey to the point where many of the people that you looked up to and your aspiring mentors are now your peers via mastermind groups and strategic alliances and whatnot. But none of that is by happenstance. You had made mention that everybody in this room, our audience, everybody that we associate with on a daily basis is where they are today because of a single pivotal moment in the past that pretty much either set or altered the trajectory of their life. I want to dive into that with you and really peel back those layers.
Absolutely.
But for everybody who doesn't know who you are, you were just nominated as one of the most influential people in Arizona by Arizona Foothills magazine.
Yep.
So you got a lot of awesome things going on, but it sounds like now it's by design. But take us back to where it all started, man. Walk us through your journey. How'd you get here?
Absolutely. So was born in Racine, Wisconsin, 30 years old, so 1988. So when I mentioned before that every person is where they're at today because of a pivotal moment, it's so true, because if you think about it, back when you guys were kids, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
I wanted to be in the military.
Okay. What about you?
What did I want to be at? I wanted to be own a car dealership when I was younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did we go wrong in life where the little boy or the little girl in us got so scared to be in the military, to be owning a car dealership, to be a firefighter, to be an astronaut? What went so wrong in life that we are all so scared of our own shadow now? We're so scared of what's going to happen tomorrow. We're so cautious of this and cautious of that. There's something that's happened in your childhood or your life that was so traumatic or so impactful on your life that it has guided you down a different path. So for instance, 5 years old, grew up in a great family, Racine, Wisconsin, not the greatest area, kind of ghetto, which is fine, But 5 years old, I'm getting done opening up presents on Christmas morning. So, black Power Ranger in my left hand, Nerf gun in my right hand, 1992 Hitachi TV with the wooden panels.
Nice.
Like, I still remember to this day. It's more vivid than it is right here. And I go into the kitchen, and my parents are sitting there crying. And I'm like, what's going on? 5 years old, you don't really know what's going on. And I look at the door, and I looked at my parents, and my dad's bags were packed. And I look back at him, and I'm like, Dad, are you going on another trip? And he just starts bawling his eyes out. I'm talking about so much tears on the table that you literally think the wood's going to come in. And my mom, comes and hugs me, sits on her lap. And I learned, that day that they were separating, getting a divorce.
Oh, man.
And divorce is very common nowadays. Back in 1992 in the Midwest, no one was divorced, so I didn't know what it was. But I knew from that moment forward what not having control felt like. 5 years old, little boy, playing with his Power Ranger. You learn that you are not in control of your destiny. You learn that you are not in control of your life. My family just got ripped from me based off two variables that I have no control over. So as a little boy who had his whole world in front of him, who had all these hopes and dreams, even though 5 years old, like I had thoughts at 5, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I learned what you don't have control. So from that moment, my dad moved to Milwaukee. My mom still lived in Racine. It was only 45-minute difference, but every other day I'm driving 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back, going to this huge skyscraper city. To me as a 5-year-old was a very big city.
Yeah.
And I would be at my dad's crying, missing my mom. I'd be at my mom's crying, missing my dad. And I was a strong, I was a strong kid, Italian at heart, so we didn't show weakness that much. Right. But knowing that you don't have control, one, two, missing someone every single day and switching the roles. I miss my dad, I miss my mom, Right. Then going to school, everyone found out that my parents separated, so I wasn't picked on any sports teams. I was last to get picked in grade school for sports. Kids, I went to a really richy, and my parents didn't have a lot of money, but they sent me this really expensive private school thinking like it would fix me, like everything would be fine after that. Those kids were so cruel and so mean. Their parents had so much money, they would just rub it in with the car we drove. Like we had a little GMC versus like the Mercedes or the BMW. So I'd get made fun of for not having money, having a broken family, no brothers and sisters, you name it. So 5 years old, no control. Parents get divorced. Crying, missing them, go to school for the first time, kindergarten, getting made fun of. So in my little world, I feel like world is out to get me now. My family's gone, kids are making fun of me, like why the hell? So think of anyone else in the world. When I say that you're at where you're at from a pivotal moment, like picture how that could be for a child growing up.
Sure.
Like I felt alone, I felt lost. I didn't know who loved me, who didn't. Even though my parents gave me everything, they loved me to the best of their ability. Psychologically though, day in and day out, I just didn't feel like I belonged. I knew I was destined for greatness. I just didn't know what the greatness was. So fast forward that, my dad moves back to Racine, so it was a little bit better, only being a 10-minute commute, whatever. I went to private schools my whole life, not the bougie private schools, but like the church Christian, memorized the Bible and, commandments and all of that stuff. So I did that. 15 years old, turning into 16, my parents cut me off money-wise. I had, 2 jobs in high school, so I was 16 years old. They didn't cut me off, but they weren't giving me money to go shopping or...
The allowance stopped.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I was still doing stuff around the house, but I had jobs since I was 14. I was cleaning foreclosed houses, and that was a horrible experience. That's another story for another time. But I had jobs all throughout high school, and then my buddies started coming around. This was when, like, Air Force Ones were back in and polos and all. I'm like, where are you guys getting the money for all these new shoes? All these new clothes, and they lift this up, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And they're like, it's weed. I'm like, what's weed? And I'm like, it looks like a tree or like some dirt. And I didn't start smoking for a year after that, but long story short, I started selling weed. I'm like, well, I know a bunch of kids that have money at my private schools. Do you think I could, I was into selling baseball cards, into selling clothes, shoes, like you name it. I was an entrepreneur since I popped out of the womb. I was always trying to sell something, even the diaper off. And I started selling weed, and before you know it, this is where my story kind of takes a crazy turn. From 15 going into 16 up until my 18th birthday, I had a 7-figure mini drug empire. So I went from selling weed to selling hard drugs, kilos, pounds. I was moving a lot of weight, but I didn't know the negative impact I was having on the community. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was selling. Back then, no one knew what addiction was. You're not going to get, like it was just, everyone wanted to party. Everyone wanted to have fun. And a lot of the kids in Racine didn't have the greatest lives. Even the rich kids and all the money, like they just, not every person has a perfect life, right? And we fed off people that did not have a perfect life, and we were feeding them a blanket to put over them. So in high school, my parents knew something was up. I had more money than I knew what to do with. I had duffel bags of cash in my walls, cash in the mattress. I had more money that I could physically do anything with, but it was illegal, right? So it's not a cool story to say right now, but it was a journey of having that much money at such a young age. It made me so hungry to always be at that level. I had power. People kissed my ass no matter where I was at. I'd go to basketball games in high school, always walk around with 6 of the biggest dudes. Any car I was in, I was surrounded by people that would not let anyone get close to me. So it was like a movie documentary style. In my little world.
Doing it like White Boy Rick.
I haven't seen the movie, but every podcast I'm on, everyone tells me to go see the movie, so it's pretty funny. So fast forward that, and my parents knew something was going on. I was I was falling asleep in school. I was popping, Percocet, Vicodin, Oxys, the whole, I was selling them, so I was taking them, and it gave me the warm blanket I had over me that I felt like my parents ripped away when I was 5. So remember when I said there's a pivotal moment in your life?
Yeah.
So going back to when I was 5 years old with no control, I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel welcome. Those drugs at the time made me feel like I was Superman. Like it put an invincible blanket over me, and it made me feel whole. Right. So I remember one day My dad calls me home. I wasn't really talking to my mom at the time because she knew something was going on and she was just too strict. So I kind of cut my mom off back then. You know, shame on me. And my stepmom's best friend's husband was the head DEA agent in Racine, Wisconsin for drugs.
Ooh.
So he called her, sent her a bunch of photos, photographies. I was being followed for a couple of weeks. So they had a bunch of different evidence on me, but I wasn't 18 yet. So she kicked me out of the house. How could you be doing this? Your little brother's down the room, like, how could you put this family in danger? He said, you're dealing with cartels. You're dealing with this, like they could kill us. So I was homeless for 2 weeks in high school.
Damn.
And no one really knew about it. Like, it's still, my brain's weird in the sense of like, it tries to not remember horrible moments. So it's like
Suppressed.
I remember the feelings of it, but I tried to get rid of those moments of shame and embarrassment and wearing baseball caps to school, lying about where I slept, saying I was just hungover from the night before, even though I didn't go out and party or, anything. So it was a very embarrassing moment in my life because even back then, even though I had, a bunch of money, hotels weren't taking kids. I was 16, 17 years old. No one would take me in. And, all my parents' friends kind of knew something was going on. So the parents didn't really want me over at the houses. Right. So fast forward that, I barely graduated high school. I was a starting basketball player, got decent grades, not phenomenal grades, but barely graduated high school. So friends I've known for 15, 16, years, or probably 13, 14 years, all were walking across the stage, and I'm walking across the stage with a hollow little, where the diploma's in, but there's no diploma. So I had a case.
Oh, damn.
So they didn't want me to be embarrassed walking across stage without a case. So, all my friends are taking pictures, and my grandparents flew in, my cousins flew in from, different states. So like, you don't want to go take pictures with your friends? And I lied to my family and said I graduated high school. My dad and mom and stepmom were the only ones that knew. So I went to the bathroom. I started just tearing up, like bawling. Like, my friends of, 15 years are all like, this is great. We're going to college, And I'm like, I was miserable. And I was still on drugs. So fast forward that, I took a year off college, and I turned into a functioning drug addict. So I was taking my own product for the longest time, painkillers, whatnot. My dealers got busted, and that gravy train stopped running in. So within a year, I don't know, probably spent $250,000 on partying, on drugs, on popping pills, on, because if you're getting stuff at a wholesale cost, it's super, super low ticket, and you lose all those connects, I'm now a customer from someone else paying 10, 15 times that. So, I had to keep it going. I didn't know what addiction was, but every time I stopped taking it, I would get sick. Right. So I didn't know what that was. So I audited my life. I'm like, okay, take this. You feel better. So obviously you keep taking it because no one talked about addiction back then. So I was addicted to painkillers for about 3 or 4 years. I was 19 going into 20, or 20-ish years old. And I went to my parents and I was like, you guys already know what I'm doing. Cause what are you going to do when your kid's taking drugs? Like, realistically, if someone's ever in that situation, it's a lot easier to point fingers and judge a family versus like, what do you actually freaking do? He's not hurting anybody, but he could. So I basically talked them into, it wasn't a hard sell, but I talked them into sending me to rehab for 30 days. So I was 20 years old. I went about 3 to 5 hours up north to a facility where I didn't know anybody, no cell phone, no Facebook. No. I lied to all my friends. I forgot what the story was, but I said I was moving to another state for a job or some bullshit, right? I made something up because I was a really big liar back then. All addicts are. Go to rehab. 30 days, most excruciating, miserable experience you could think of. Like, felt like prison. Yeah. So withdrawals for 7 days. You're puking, going to the bathroom. Your skin's crawling. It's almost like a demon is trying to get out of you for 7 full days. Jesus. So it was a very miserable experience. They made you wake up at 4 a.m. every day, like military. Okay. Clean your cot, your bed, scrub the floors, toilets. Okay. Like, it was a full on.
Yeah. Lifestyle rearrangement.
Yes, 100%. So I went through that for 30 days. Came back home within 2 days. I got on my hands and my knees and I started bawling my eyes out to my dad. And my dad's like, "Are you fucking back on? Like, get out of the house." I'm like, "No, complete opposite." Sure. I had no money. I was not legally bankrupt, but I had zero money at the age of 20, going into 21. And I was like, a buddy of mine, Nate, and I want to move to downtown Milwaukee. Please get me out of here. I've sold at every single small business from here to Chicago. I have had either someone that works for me or myself sell drugs at. I've done shady stuff here. get me out of this environment, because every time I see it, smell it, look at it, it reminds me of the horrible things I've done. So he borrowed me 2 months worth of rent money. I moved to downtown Milwaukee, got a job as a barback, multiple barbacks. So I went from living this super luxurious lifestyle at 16, 17, 18 to going and cleaning puke-off toilets at a bar in downtown Milwaukee where all the hot girls are walking past you. So it was like the biggest ego check you could think of. Was going to school in downtown Milwaukee, was actually getting straight A's and 1B, which was the first time in my life to actually like pay attention in school and get good grades. And then my career, I started barbacking. The owner started seeing that I knew everybody within 2 months. Like, the bar would never be packed on a Wednesday night because it was a brand new bar. All of a sudden, all these, really good looking girls are giving me hugs and kisses. Guys are shaking up. They're like, Boles, you've lived here for 2 or 3 months. How the hell do you know all these people? Are they here for you? I'm like, yeah, like I'm homies with all of them. Like, we go out, da-da-da. They're like, could you do this on any given night? I was like, maybe. So they had me go change shirts. They gave me a $100 bar tab. I got paid $100 cash for the night, which is more than I would have made bar backing. And I went and they paid me to drink with my friends.
You're a connector.
And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, are you for real? So long story short, that evolved into being very, very popular in Milwaukee for nightlife, for experiences, for living that lifestyle. I was a social butterfly, right? So within a year, I had 6 or 7 of the hottest nightclubs back to back. So Wednesday, I would host a night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and my name really blew up. That was the first time that Jon Boles became one word. So it's like, no, like literally, I've been on vacation with friends that I've known for 10 years, and everyone says, where's John? People on vacation said, who's John? I shit you not. They're like, Jon Boles, and I'm literally standing right here. So back then it was, I was the only, this was 8 or 9 years ago when business cards weren't a thing for people our age. Like your parents had business cards. So I had this matte black business card that just said Jon Boles and then a phone number on the back. Didn't say who I was, what I did, but if you had one of these cards, that would get you into the clubs. It was like a VIP type thing. And it blew up really fucking quick. So they like connected my first name and last name and put it into one. And I kind of rode with that. Every single... Yeah, like my parents are the only people that don't call me by that. A lot of people just like, I love when people call me John or like my real name Jonathan because they know me on a real basis. When people say Jon Boles, it's from Instagram, it's from something rather another. But that's kind of how my entrepreneur journey got started, was promoting for nightclubs, having my own night. All the flyers would say hosted by Jon Boles. I was on the radio, I was on TV. And long story short, on that piece, I became, and I hate to say this because I don't have an ego anymore, but I got too much attention too quickly. And it was like a local mini celebrity type thing, but it wasn't that. They wanted to get into the clubs. It was hyped. I had hype around me. It wasn't that I was some special celebrity, because I was not. It was, I had a certain thing that they wanted, and everyone wanted to flock to me. So it was... Like my girlfriend and I at the time couldn't even go to grocery markets without people stopping us and asking how they could get into a club. Like it got really bad where some people weren't getting it let in, and I had people following me to my apartment structure. Like it got really scary really quick because there's these big dudes outside wearing baggy jeans and this and that, and they're getting told they can't come in when all their friends are inside, and then they see a flyer outside the window with my picture, my name. So people started to really hate on me. There was too much attention on me, and my entrepreneurship journey got started way before that. But I was like, what if I create a logo and a brand and I hide behind it? There's no more Jon Boles. It's a company, and no one knows who owns the company. And I was like, yeah, that's genius. So I created an LLC, created a landing page and a logo all myself, and I had a friend help out, and there was no more Jon Boles anymore. I mean, there was, but I hid behind a company. So our company scaled in its first year, did a little over $1 million for our clients. We took home about $250,000 year one, which is really good for me. But the funny thing is, you guys have heard my story that I've said today, right? This right here, making $250,000, was where my stories always started. So talking about having a mask on, like Lewis House always talks about mask. I have not told the story I told on this podcast until January of this year.
Damn.
So 29 years of my life has not been living a lie, just has been wearing a mask like a lot of people do. Was scared of what people would think. What would they think of how my parents raised me? What would they think of who I used to be? Would clients not want to work with me anymore? Would anyone want to coach with me anymore? And it dawned on me, and it's like, people hire me because I've gone through hell. They've hired me because I've gone to the dark side and back. I know what pain they're going through. They don't hire me because I'm some uber successful person, because I'm not Superman. I have pain. I have weaknesses. There's shit that I've gone through in my journey that you're paying me to get past that, so you don't have to go through it.
Sure.
It's like I'm picking you up, bringing you over the cliff that you were about to jump down, and I'm bringing you to the other side. So I was worried for the longest time that people would judge me and not like me because, again, going back to the pivotal moment when I was a child, what happened when people found out the truth? I got made fun of.
Right.
I got ridiculed. I didn't feel whole. Those feelings all came back.
Sure.
So that's why when I do business coaching or consulting for people, it's business coaching, but it goes so much more granular on a personal level. Like, it's hard to explain, but all of that went back to when I was 5.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, it's really funny that you say all that because, Jeff and I really live by the value of coaching, and our coaches have coaches, so on and so forth. And I don't know anybody who's had the realizations that you've had pinpointing that moment at 5 years old, especially when you talk about suppressing those extremely traumatic events. Who helped you find that point?
I would say
because it's rare that somebody goes through an introspective process on their own and is like, oh, that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I hired Chris Lee, who's Lewis House's coach.
Okay.
So I went through MITT, life transformation course. I didn't have the greatest experience in the second one of it because I was I've looked up to Lewis House for a while. Sure. Chris Lee is his coach. They had a huge conversation about me. So Lewis reached out on Instagram, but so it was a pretty cool, surreal moment. But Chris pulled me aside and he's like, Lewis, and I can't go into detail because you signed an NDA, but there's certain things you can win or get elected to become in this program. Sure. And I got the same things Lewis did. Okay. And my group kind of put me on that. He's the leader of the group. He's the this, the that. And they use that against me on my second go around because there's three levels you have to go through to graduate. Okay. They use that against me on the second round to sell me to get into the third one. So I had a really bad experience of the whole thing. The girlfriend I was dating at the time, they leveraged who I was in the group, saying that if she didn't go to the third round, I would leave her for someone. Like, it was just a bad experience. Okay. But Chris Lee is a phenomenal coach. He's one of my close, he's a very close friend now. He was the one that helped me realize that every person has an instance in their life that's gotten you to where you are. So for instance, I coach a lot of fitness coaches, right? Sure. So a lot of personal trainers, online coaches come to me to scale their business to $250,000 in under 12 months. And a handful of them, I'm getting them to 7 figures in year 2. Okay. So changing people's lives, right? That doesn't just come because I redo their products and services or tell them how to talk on Instagram. I'm rewiring the way they think based off of one moment they had in their childhood. Right. Based off one moment they had growing up. Like, I had a client in my office 3 weeks ago bawling her eyes out as she was telling her story. And I'm like, holy cow, that's exactly why you are. And she's a 10 out of 12 out of 10 energy, like full of energy. Yeah. And without going into too much of her own detail, it all stems from thinking she's never good enough throughout her entire life. Her parents, classmates, kids, and she felt that if she was not always on point and super energetic, she would miss something and she'd get made fun of again. Yeah. So if I wasn't who I was and I just focused on the surface level shit, do you really think my clients, I had 2 clients this year grow 3,600% in 12 weeks. They went from $3,000 a month to almost $50,000 a month with 0 paid traffic. Damn. I don't know another coach in the game right now, and I know a lot of them that are having results like that, and it's not because of just business coaching. Right. It's all the human psyche. It's all about what stems from their childhood. What are their thoughts? What are their mindset? How much time do we waste a day thinking about limiting beliefs? Sure. I know I do. Or thinking you're not good enough, or psyching yourself up. That's all wasted time. So you need to, when I hire coaches, I've spent upwards of almost $200-something thousand on coaches in the past 2 years. Yeah. And when I hire coaches, those coaches have gone through the muck as well. Oh, 100%. I don't want to hire a coach who is sitting in a Rolls Royce talking about this and talking about I did this and that. Okay, if you don't have any documentation, or if I don't vibe with your story, I know a lot. I'm friends with a lot of influencers now, and I know a lot of them have hired PR agencies to create the story of I was this one day. Yeah. So it's I need to know for sure you've actually gone through this crap. Yeah. Before I give you, my money. And my last coach I just hired, he's $120,000 for the year. That's an expensive coaching program.
Right.
I got on the call thinking it was 12 grand. I'm like, okay, 12 grand, whatever. I've paid it before. Get on the call and he's like, yeah, it's 120 grand. I'm like, fuck. Yeah. I grabbed my side and he did such a good job hitting all my pain points in all of his, ad campaigns, his funnels, everything, the guides I downloaded.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? It's time you put your money where your mouth is. You need to do this because he knows exactly what you're going through. He's been where you've been at. He's owned agencies. He's burnt them to the ground. He's sold companies. He's been, and he's not pretending. He just is who he is. And I literally paid on the spot.
Damn.
Yeah.
Dude, what was the catalyst for you to, dive deep and really tell your story from the beginning? Because, we all go through that pivotal point where, you hit that 250K a year. But actually being willing to tell that story and be open and authentic about it, that's another, that's another level. Being able to share it to an audience without feeling that fear. What was the catalyst that made you share that story?
So I went to a buddy's event. One of my buddy Jays from 5 Star had me go to like a mastermind, live course in January of this year in LA. He's a fellow, coach. He's coached with my coaches before. And it's funny because like Gerard Adams, the homie, owns Leader Create Leaders, everything else. He's sitting front row, and there's 2 other influencers there. Preston Smiles is there. I'm like, what the? I'm like, I had no idea these guys are going to be here. Like my limiting beliefs, right? Putting people on pedestals. This is the old me, and everyone was sharing vulnerable. And he did a phenomenal job at this live event. Like the colors, the mood. He's studied Tony Robbins up and down.
Oh, yeah.
He is he primed everybody the entire weekend. Right? It was a 2 or 3 day event. And everyone's getting up and, the sad music, you're hugging, because he's gone through MITT as well. So, like, when you're, like, if I'm in my coach mode, I could probably get someone to break down and cry in under 2 minutes. Like, if I truly wanted to.
Yeah.
It's all body posture, looking in eyes, saying certain things, music. I mean, there's a lot of things.
NLP, the whole.
Yes, there's a lot of things you can do with that. So he did all that to us. It was the first time I experienced that. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Not sure if I'm supposed to swear, but I was like, what the heck is going on? And everyone's getting up and sharing vulnerable stories. Like, if there's ever a time, this is a family, this is a close-knit community. If there's ever a time you're hiding something, you don't want someone. These girls are getting up like, I've never told anyone I was raped. My dad raped me. Yada, yada. I'm like, holy shit, this is horrible stories. If these girls can get up crying, like, why can't I share mine? And my buddy Jay left for a couple hours. I'm like, now's the time. I need to say this now. No one in Scottsdale is going to find out I was a drug dealer. Like, it's never going to come out. And I stand up and the microphone's shaking, and Gerard Adams looks at me. Preston's there. A bunch of other people there. I'm like, oh, fuck. Jay walks through the door. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, sit down. And I tell my story, and I start shaking. And, like, Gerard shaking his head, like proud. Kids started, the other guys in there, 2 of them came up to me and they're like, I was addicted to heroin. I was suicidal. I've never shared the story with anybody, and you just gave me the power to go. So I knew at that moment I was the leader. Yeah. And it's sad that up until this year, like I've built 150 companies before this year ever started. Like, I've been very successful, but my own limiting beliefs made me feel like I wasn't good enough or I wasn't a leader because you're so stuck in the rat race. You're so stuck in the hamster wheel. You're stuck comparing yourselves to everyone. And it's like, I got up for the first time and literally took the cloth off me, took the skeletons out of my closet. In that moment, how I felt is the biggest success anything I could have done for myself. When you're living in fear, you're wondering when people are going to find out. It's like it's like if you're not faithful to your wife or your girlfriend or boyfriend or husband or whatever that is, you think about it every freaking day, right? If you live a lie or you're a fraud or a fake, you think about it every day. Right. I felt like I was a fraud for the longest time because I had this past life that no one's ever known about. Sure. That made me skyrocket. My businesses took off. My personal life took off. I've learned how to love myself in the past year because as much as I've shown it in the past, like I used money and success and cars and girls and that lifestyle to show people I was successful. Sure. I use it as a mask, a materialistic mask to show people like, see, I am successful. I dropped out of college. I was a drug dealer, but I'm still killing it. Da 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 da. Right. I don't have anything. I don't have to prove anything to anyone, especially now. Like, I don't have anything to prove. So January, when I went to the event and I shared my story for the first time, that got me into life coaching. That got me into taking more courses. That had me go to, MITT is one of the most advanced courses you can go through. It's 7 days of intense training where you're literally bawling your eyes out all day for 7 full days. Damn. And then the second course you go through, which is advanced, it makes the first one look like it's a cakewalk. Sure. Like, you get sick. You can't go in it if you're pregnant because it'll kill a baby. Like
Damn.
it's
that
that
kind of
intense.
visceral reaction. Yeah.
And yeah, Tony Robbins has all of his salespeople go through that before he'll ever even hire you.
Yeah. So there's an evolution here that's taking place, and there's it takes time to reprogram and reframe your story, how you tell it, and the significance of it to you, and throughout that process, when did you finally come full circle with the change, that it's not the money and the stuff, but the happiness and fulfillment that truly facilitates your ability to have influence?
May of this year.
5 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like,
You just wake up one morning like,
no,
I got it, or like what was it like for
think
you?
back of childhood, right? I told you that my parents got divorced.
Yeah.
I felt lonely. Kids had more money than me. They had a family. They had all this other stuff. So
Sure.
I had a chip on my shoulder that I had something to prove, right? College dropout, and you're an entrepreneur. What else do you show outside of like flashy shit or money or success? Like there's no diploma you can ever get. So throughout those years, I'm like, okay, I have to keep getting a better condo, keep getting a better house, take out a hotter girl, da 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 da. So that was my limiting beliefs, thinking that people were judging me when they weren't really judging me. They just wanted to know the authentic me and learn and love me. But I had such a wall up that I didn't want anyone to know the real me because of what happened when my parents split up when I was 5. So I keep going back to that one moment.
Right.
And my parents feel so bad when they hear all my podcasts and all my publications now, that they're like, oh my God, we fucked this kid's life up. But it's I tell my parents, I'm like, I had to go through this to get to where I am. So May was and it's so funny because I almost reached out to Lewis House, and I was like, dude, why didn't you write The Mask of Masculinity like 5 years ago? So I could have read this shit 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book on it, and it goes in fine detail of the different types of masks you can wear as a man.
Sure.
Because if you look at the difference between men and women, right? Men are alpha. We're the hunters. We're the providers. We're the gatherers. We're the ones that have to keep the flock, the children, the community, the tribe, everyone safe. Weakness wasn't a thing back in the day. It was fight or flight. You have to kill what you eat, you know? So going into who men are today, it's just started happening, being authentic and vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Everyone shows off their cars and rap videos or this or that or athletes, and you put these people on a pedestal. So I was going along with the motions up until this year. I started, and don't get me wrong, I love nice things. I've been a car guy since I was a kid, so I like having nice cars. But it doesn't define me.
Right.
It doesn't, like, I might post one here and there, but it's all strategy.
Right.
Our agency has high-level clients in the automotive space, so when they see one of the owners has an X, Y, or Z car, like, it does add benefit. But I don't let it define me. I don't. My page isn't ran with flashy, stuff to throw in people's faces. It's a very authentic and vulnerable and lifestyle type of page.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, damn, why didn't I do this years ago? How many more lives would I be changing right now if I just had a couple more years? But I'm just so excited that it did happen because, my life hasn't been easy this past year just because of how fast business has grown. So I haven't had the greatest life by any means, but finally knowing who I am, accepting who I am, and loving who I am, and knowing that by me doing those things, one of my things with MITT was, I'm an authentic, vulnerable, loving leader. And my old keywords were powerful, and all these other ego words or alpha words. Like, I'm already a powerful guy. I'm already a bigger guy. I need to learn compassion. I need to learn love.
Yeah.
I need to be authentic. I need to be vulnerable, because those are the things that are going to get people listening to this podcast engaged. It's not what model or Mercedes is or what size your Rolex. Like, no one gives a shit about that.
Right.
And if you do, you're following the Tai Lopez's and the other different people of the world. But when I make a post like I did yesterday, and I don't have the biggest following by any means, it's 50-something thousand followers, but I get hundreds of DMs off one post on how just me sharing my story was able to touch them in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Dude, what led you into, going on the business side of things, starting Modus Apparel, and then transitioning into a media company? That's because those are two, they seem like two different,
Yeah, so Modus was, Modus was my 6th company that I launched. I did consulting before that, you know, 3-piece suit and tie, you know, miserable life back in Milwaukee. So I consulted for nightclubs, restaurant, hotels, salon, spas, you know, small businesses, right? They would hire me for consulting fees. I would go in and basically take over their business for about 6 or 9 months. I would rip apart the operations, hire accountants, hire lawyers, restaff it, redo all the interior. Like I would like John Tafford Bar Rescue, but like a younger, more realistic version. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I owned a restaurant with a couple partners. The partnership ended up going really bad. You know, I got screwed over a little bit without going into detail. And I just said, I'm so sick of, you know, it was the second time a partner screwed me over. I had a tech company years ago where we basically invented Apple Pay 8 years ago.
Damn.
Like, no lie. Like, it was supposed to be a $100 million company. We closed the University of Milwaukee as a client. We were supposed to go raise $2 million of funding. And without, you know, legally going into detail, a lot of the smaller partners got screwed over on the deal. And I lost probably $250,000 that year.
Damn.
So it was bad deal into bad deal, and I, you know, kept wasting all this money, and my bank account kept going down. I'm like, I'm fucking like, if I'm gonna do something, I want to be happy about it. And I was miserable doing what I was doing. So I did a show back in, I think, 2010, like a men's physique fitness show. Did well at that, and I love the fitness industry. The gym has always been something I would go to de-stress, to get away, you know, back to the limiting beliefs. Like I'd go to the gym to feel better about myself, because you can see growth, you know, every second that you're there. And I started researching. I wrote like 8 different business plans. Like I'm a huge analytics data type guy. And I wrote different business plans for like a gym, training company, nutrition company, supplement company, clothing company. And I've always loved fashion. And every time I would, you know, wear clothes at the gym and go home and wash them, the screen print would peel off, the shirt would rip, and I'm like, what the fuck? There's nothing out there of a higher quality. And I know Randall was killing it, you know, on the rise. Gymshark was really small back then, even though they're not now. So everyone was kind of on the rise, right? So I was like, you know what? I can build this into a $20, $30 million company. Like, I love fashion. You know, I think I can do this. I knew one of the original team members of Lululemon. She was my advisor when I launched it. Okay. Who then worked for Kit and Ace, their sister company. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go all in. So I just bought a condo, paid a lot of cash for the condo, and I had maybe 30 grand left over cash. So for me, running a business, that's not a lot of capital on hand to run multiple companies. So I launched Modus. Like, I think I was working 18 to 20 hours a day for 2 months. I was popping fat burners to stay up 24/7, and I literally built the entire company that would take 9 months to build. I built it in like 45 days.
Damn.
Like, all the departments. All of the departments. I built all the SKUs. I developed all the clothing, built the entire website, built all the back channels, the ambassador programs. We had 46 ambassadors before we ever launched. We crashed our server in the first hour of operation. Did like $7 grand the first day in sales, and the server was down for 3 hours. So with no Facebook ads, no paid traffic, being a nobody back then, like those are pretty great sales for, you know, 4 or 5 years ago in the fitness industry. So to answer your question, I launched Modus off of passion. I was passionate about fashion. I was passionate about fitness, and I wanted to have a lifestyle brand, which is Modus Life is a lifestyle brand. So the reason I chose Modus is you could have a goal of, you know, getting 1 million subscribers on your podcast, driving a Ferrari, marrying the woman of your dreams. Those are all great goals to have, but what's the process of getting there? Right. So like Modus is the process of becoming a better version of yourself every day. The Modus lifestyle is a community of people that are all going through shit, whether it's positive or negative. We're all going through our own journey, and it's the goal of becoming a better version of yourself every day. So psychologically, when you think about it, what's one of the first things you do in the morning? Now, no one ever gets this right, so I'm just going to answer it for you guys. Because they're like, I brush my teeth, I do this. Right. You put clothes on, right? So the way I developed Modus, like if you guys have ever seen any of the clothing, like I strategically, psychologically designed the women's and men's designs to do different things to your brain. So when you wake up as a girl, a lot of our original tank tops and leggings and whatnot, the design started in the middle of both breasts for women, and it would be a box, a skinnier box, and it would go down to the belly button. What does a guy's eyes do? It focuses on the design, and it keeps it right there. women's problematic areas are fat on the sides and fat below the belly button. So I just eliminated their eyes going to their insecure parts. I eliminated the guys' eyes from going there. So immediately when you look in the mirror, you look thinner. All the leggings I developed, I researched where seam should go on the butt, how it's supposed to suck up, what type of material. Same thing with guys. What are guys' insecurities? Fat at the waist, skinny up top. So guys want to feel like they're alpha with, wide up top and skinny down below. So all the designs we did were 13 inches wide on the chest, and it would slope down, meeting in the center of the chest. So it looked like you were tapered in.
Right.
So psychologically, we designed all of our customers to feel better about themselves. And that's how the company started scaling. So to answer your question, I got screwed over in a lot of different marketing and advertising agencies with websites, Facebook ads. I just felt like I kept getting taken advantage of. And I'm really good at building companies. So like the branding, I'm phenomenal at building websites. Making a company appear larger than it is like my MO, right? And everyone kept reaching out to me. Who did your website? Like, I have $5-6 grand to spend. Can you just put me in touch with them? I'll give you a couple $100. And it kept happening. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll take an extra $5 grand times 5 people every single month, make an extra 20, 30 grand. So as time went on, I kept getting asked. I was like, all right, this is enough. Like, I'm going to just start a company, create a logo, create a name, just see what happens with it. And Modus was doing well around then. And I think month one of Avintiv, we did like 35 grand in revenue.
Damn.
Pure profit. So it was like, okay, why the hell am I running this clothing company that's doing maybe 40 or 50 grand a month in revenue, netting 20%? It just didn't make sense. So, and it's not all about the money with me. So I still ran Modus for another year and a half.
Yeah.
But as time went on, the marketplace for Modus and clothing got super difficult. Ads were getting 3 times as expensive. Other clothing companies had 10 times the amount of budget. Our sales starting to slowly decrease because I don't have the budget. Like with clothing, you have to pre-order stuff 6 to 9 months in advance.
Yep.
When you're a startup or you're 2 years in, do you think you have enough? Our runs were 50 grand cash, not credit card, 50 grand cash a season. I don't have 150 grand cash to do three seasons in advance. So I had a disadvantage going into it. And I didn't want to pull, we did take on investors, but I waited a very long time to do that. Avintiv started skyrocketing and we were netting, 30, 40, 50 grand a month for a while until they all started to crash and burn around me. So I had a manufacturing company too, where I did all the distribution, manufacturing, and design for a lot of other clothing companies, a lot of other, we did supplements. Like I white labeled a lot of different stuff for people. So I had 3 companies that were all scaling, and I thought that was a cool thing to have, is putting in your Instagram bio, CEO of 3 companies, and all this, feeding my ego, right?
Yeah. Right.
And before you know it, these companies started crashing and burning into each other. And I'm like, what the fuck did I get myself? Because if you're in your 20s or 30s and you don't have a couple million in capital and you're running 3 companies, unless you have 15, 20 employees, your companies can't be big. It's physically impossible unless you have an e-commerce, Amazon, drop ship, fully automated company. It's very hard to have 3 or 4 companies that are doing 7 figures of revenue or multiple 6 figures and they're running themselves. So my company started bashing heads. My Modus employees would need me, but I'd be in an Avintiv meeting. My manufacturing clients in China would need me. I'd be here. So it just, Avintiv's revenue dropped almost 75% within 2 months. Modus's sales dropped. I literally had I was in the hospital with acute pancreatitis and stomach ulcers, almost died. So I've been hospitalized like 6 times, almost died multiple times from overworking and stress, which we're getting ready to launch a new campaign for our new coaching program. And it tells my full story in like an ad sequence, email sequence. And it showcases like me in the hospital, sticking my thumbs up after almost dying. And the doctor telling me like, you got to stop being an entrepreneur. And like, that was like being a professional athlete or college athlete, telling that you broke your ankle or whatever your muscle group it is that you're never going to play again. Right. Yeah. So I led into Avintiv through, it just happened.
Just one organic thing that just happened.
And the biggest thing, the reason why I sold Modus in May of 2018 is with Avintiv, we give entrepreneurs their life back. And when I say that, when we develop our websites, when we do branding campaigns, Facebook ads, business coaching, whatever we're offering to a client, we're very selective with who we work with. We don't just take on anybody. We turn down probably 50, 60 grand a month in just clientele that we don't want to be attached to. If you don't have a passion project, if you're not providing value to your customers, if you are taking shortcuts, we don't want to have anything to do with you. Right. So it dawned on me when I started working with, we started working with small business owners when we first launched. Now we have some, some pretty big clients right now, but just seeing how stressed they were in not understanding Facebook and not understanding why their family business was failing, or not understanding their consumers, or understanding how to get out of the rat race. Understanding that you can grow your business. You don't have to be there 16 hours a day. Just seeing life going back into them was like I gave them a happy pill. And my clients started like having bigger smiles week after week. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm addicted to this. I'm addicted now to giving people their life back. Now let's take it one step deeper, because you guys said you like to go deep.
Yeah.
Giving entrepreneurs their life back, how is that that's the opposite of what I did. I took people's lives away. Now, thank God no one died underneath my watch or nothing horrible happened, but feeding drugs to people is taking kids away from families. It's
Right.
creating horrible experiences for people, and I did that for years. Now, it's like I had to do that to go through that shit to become the leader that I need to be to help people get their life back. So it makes my why and my vision so much more impactful for why I was put on this earth. Like, your teachers ask you, what were you destined to be? What were you? And you're like, I don't know, Linda. What were you destined to be? It wasn't a 6th grade teacher.
Right.
So I now know what I was put on this earth for. And going through the coaching events I've had, like you asked me for, why don't you have a book? The old me was like, no one wants to read my freaking book. The old me was like, I'm never going to be verified on Instagram, which I'm not yet. Or I'm not going to have this, I'm not going to be that. Those are all my own limiting beliefs.
Sure.
That's not the truth. That's not reality. Those are what my own brain and my own ego have told me, because they like being complacent. They like being, stuck in this little box, because they're going to keep living. So it's like there's so much psychology that goes into like the communication you have with yourself and the relationship you have with yourself. But what I learned in that process of having multiple companies is I wouldn't even just say ego, because I did have an ego where I thought I could do everything. I thought I was Superman because I was overcompensating for how insecure I felt from, in the past. And now I probably get hit up 4 to 20 times a month with different business ideas, people wanting to partner or wanting me to come on as an investor. I could probably make an additional $100,000 a month right now, passive money, by just saying yes to people, and I keep saying no, because I learned my mistakes. If it's not a part of my why, and if it's not a part of my vision, my instant vision of where I know I need to go, it's a no.
For sure.
And if it's not a 100% yes, it has to be a no. That's why I treat relationships the same way. Like I was on a date a couple weeks ago, and one of the girls was like, yeah, I know a lot of people that know you, they say you're a serial 1-year dater. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? She's like, well, you date girls for a year and then you get rid of them. And I'm like, that's interesting. If you're at a job and you're miserable every day and you're like not appreciated or this or that, are you going to stay there? She's like, well, no. I'm like, okay, well, if you start a company and you start bleeding out money and you're about to go bankrupt, would you keep the company? She's like, well, no. I'm like, how is dating any different? So it's like every aspect of my life, I carry that into.
Takes a year for you to figure that out.
Usually quicker. But the guy
I would hope so.
The guy
man.
my mom raised the guy my mom raised me to be is a lot of the girls I've dated. We live different lives.
Sure.
I'm over here running 1,000,000 miles an hour, growing 3,000%. They're slowly growing, and then they kind of get into a rut.
Yeah.
Or they get complacent, lazy. I'm paying for 99% of everything, and they're not at their best part. My mom raised me that you don't leave people when they're at their weakest point. You help them get back up, and then you go on your merry way.
Sure.
The last couple of relationships I've had, nothing bad to say about any of the girls. I've loved each of them in their own way, but they were at a very low point in their life, and I stayed in 3 or 4 months longer than I should have just to get them on their own feet.
Yeah.
Speaking a little bit about your vision, how do you define your vision at this point? Because I know you touched on it.
Yeah, so how do I define my vision, or like what is vision to me?
Basically, both. Like, give me both, because what's your long-term vision that you have for yourself with what you're building now?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, just roll with that one first.
So what vision is to me, and the reason why I have so much success with my coaching clients is because I've created a phenomenal vision course for them to go through. But what vision means to me is it's your greater why. It's your dream. It's your in a perfect world. When you close your eyes, what makes you happy, what makes you giggly, what makes you feel authentic, and what makes you just feel whole. And where is that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? I have a vision where I'm 75 years old, and I reverse engineered it to today. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, wife's name, kids' names, where I'm living, what I'm doing, how much I'm making. Like one of my mentors who's 25, he's about to do 100 million this year, 25 years old. And all of his mentors are in their 80s and 90s, and they're straight shooters because they could die tomorrow, so they're not going to lie. And he's like, you need to have a vision when you're 90 years old and reverse engineer it, or a vision till you die.
Right.
Write death. Write a year, and you reverse engineer it. So vision for me is that. What my vision is Avintiv Media has scaled over the past 2 years probably a couple 1,000%. It's 12 employees. We have 30-something clients now, like Maserati, Lamborghini, Penske Automotive. We have a lot of influencer celebrities as clients now. We've helped over 40 or 50 fitness coaches this year. So the company's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. So my vision has had to shift quite a bit. But within 2019, I would love Avintiv to be a medium to high multiple seven-figure agency on its own without me having to be in the day-to-day. So I'm actually probably towards next month. I've been doing it for 2 months now. I'm not going to be CEO starting 2019. I'm going to be the visionary of the company.
Yeah, building yourself
And in my level of genius, I'm going to have an operations team, a management team, because the company's bigger than me. The company is not Jon Boles anymore. The company is a lot bigger than who I am, and I'm not a manager. I'm a leader, but I'm not a leader in a company, right? I'm like a visionary leader, 20,000-foot approach, closing large deals, creating the one idea that makes us $10 million or saves a client's life. I'm that guy, right? We're relaunching our business coaching program December 1st of this year, and that's for personal trainers, fitness coaches, online coaches, anyone that is stuck in the muck. That's usually about $2,000 to $10,000 a month in revenue. We have a 12-week program called Impact Leaders that you go through the entire program. There's 3 coaches that help me run it, and we've already built out everything. You just have to fill everything out, and it's a very close-knit community family. There's 20 people in a course, and that allows you to scale to $250,000 in under 12 months.
Okay.
Like almost for sure. We don't guarantee it, but we've done it to 45 people this year alone.
Okay.
Every single person is on track to $250,000 or $500,000. So we're relaunching that. So our coaching program has 3 tiers. So we have Visionaries Academy for people that don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to be an entrepreneur. That's like the bare minimum of how to create a vision, what your mindset needs to be, disbeliefs, everything we wish we were taught back in the day before we started.
Sure.
So that's a lower ticket item. Then there's Impact Leaders. And then we're launching a mastermind in February/March where it's a continuity program. So you can start as a visionary, go to an impact leader, you graduate that if you get approved and accepted to the mastermind, and then that's a 12-month program. And that's a multiple 7-figure company as well. So let's just take those 2 aside and put them right here. And I just say numbers so you can get the grasp of the business and everything. Put those 2 aside. The number one thing our fitness coaching, and we're supposed to help upwards of 750 people, coaches in 2019. So think of 750 people in your head, and every single one of them complains about the software they use. Asana, Trainerize, MyFitnessPal, every one of them has something bad to say about one of these softwares.
Sure.
So in 2020, we're launching a SaaS company that is solely for the fitness community and solely for our clientele until we launch it nationally. But on average, by 2020, I think it's like we'll have 2,200 customer base. We launch 5 or 6 different software platforms and apps that we've already know like what we want to do. Month 1 is like a $380,000 a month.
Boom.
Just off the clientele we have. But not only that, look at it this way. Our clients don't like the software because the users have a bad experience.
Right.
What experience are the users having? They're overweight. They're unhappy. Like if you think of a personal trainer or a fitness coach, like now we're going like high level. Yeah. They're miserable. Their husbands aren't touching them anymore. They're overweight. People are making fun of them or they're staring at them. Like when someone's overweight or they're not feeling comfortable in their skin or body, we've all been there. It's not a good feeling. So if we can create software, 1, to make money, obviously, because it's a company, but 2, give our clients a better experience to lose weight faster, to feel more comfortable, to feel better in their body. Why the hell wouldn't we do that?
Sure.
So everything we're doing with our coaching programs or our agency is not just to make money or make our clients money. Right. It's to give the user experience of our customers the best experience possible.
Sure.
So now take that business and move it over to the side. So there's 3 companies all in the fitness space, right? Next step, 2021, maybe 2022, is I've always had a dream of creating either an angel fund or a venture capitalist fund that is specifically geared towards giving working capital to everyone that's trying to take our coaching programs.
Nice.
So we're going to be trying to create an in-house banking system, you know, a couple million, you know, to start off, whatever it is, but it gives seed money to the people that are taking our coaching program. And it'll be like a Shopify where you have to use, we'll have an in-house credit card processing company that we're going to be creating. A bunch of my buddies do credit card processing, so we're white labeling one of their services. But like Shopify, if you take a $10,000 or $15,000 loan on Shopify, they take your gross revenue and pay 10% off every single time they take money from you. So we're loaning all of our clients money, but they're going to be paying us back through our processing. And then we make the percentage of the processing fee, but it's going to be a standalone bank. So if you look at it from the perspective of the agencies servicing maybe 120 medium, high-level clients a year, giving clients their lives back, giving entrepreneurs their life back, helping small business, medium-sized businesses thrive and grow, which is changing the economy. It's changing people. Then you look at the coaching business. So on average, if you're helping 700 people a year, on average, our coaches have 100 clients. So that's what? Not bad at math right now, but that's what, 70,000 people?
Yep. 7.
Yeah, we're all like, oh shit. Yeah. Well, let's just say 70,000 people, right? 70,000 people. And would you guys say that on average you come in contact with 10 people a day that you could positively or negatively impact? Maybe it's hold the door open. Maybe it's honk at someone.
Absolutely.
10 people, right? That's not like we did the research. Is like 28 people that you come in contact with. So let's just say 10 people. We're at 70,000 times it by 10. You're at 700,000. Take that times 365 days a year. That's what? You know, anywhere between 15 to 30 million people our companies are going to have a positive impact on. So when you look at those type of numbers, that's insane. Not only that, who's the customer base of our clients? Our fitness portion, at least. It's overweight, obese, people who are unhappy and miserable. What are their characteristics at work? They're probably lazy. They're tired. They're eating fast food. Their relationships are miserable. And one of our clients is Possible Pat. He's an influencer celebrity, lost tons and tons of weight, was on Ellen. So when I talk about obesity, I've never been obese, but we've read emails and testimonials and we're very in tune with Pat. Like we've helped him scale a lot of his company. So I know what these people go through. So even though you're looking at me and I've never been obese, like I know what shit they're going through. So when you look at it, like the economy is obviously at the highest it's been in a while, but picture how much of an impact on the community will have on the economy. There's 49% of the U.S. population, 39 or 49% is registered obese in the United States. So you're telling me 49% of the population in America is complacent at work, you know, eating at fast food corporations, billion-dollar companies versus mom and pop organic shops. There's a huge flaw. They're honking on their horns, they're driving, they're crashing. Like when you're not fit and healthy, you're not as cognizant as you are as if you're eating clean, you're awake, you're drinking tons of water. Those are just facts, right? So picture the impact on the community we'll have by impacting 20 million people. That's what gets me out of bed every morning. So it's not the money, it's not the this, it's not the company, it's my 10-year vision.
That's huge, dude.
Then not only that, you know, we would be looking at like a 8 to 10-year buyout for all 4 or 5 of those companies for the sole fact of this. I want a larger corporation or a larger company to be able to adopt these more organic feels and add it to a larger company to make a more positive impact and change versus little of us, right? So that's the kind of vision, but intertwined with that, 2019, 2020, I want to, you know, at least have one New York Times best-selling book. I want to be able to travel around the country and be the guy that, you know, sells out 20,000 people stages, or, you know, I'm on that type of a level, and it's not about the fame or the notoriety. It's just I think I have such a unique story on how young I am and how much shit I've gone through, and I've saved a lot. Even, you know, we've went in, but probably shared 10% of it with you guys. I think that a lot more people are able to relate to someone who's younger like me, who has gone through what I've gone through, versus these guys that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars with the rolls and these huge houses. Like, I can't even relate to that. And I've made a lot of money in my life. So picture someone who's struggling right now. How can they relate to that? So like, I want to be that guy that entrepreneurs can look up to. And I have a post that's going out in a couple of days. It's funny because teachers and professors and students used to make fun of me so much. And they used to, these 2 keywords: entrepreneurs are college dropouts. Visionaries are losers. You're never going to amount to anything. And it's funny, what was the award I told you that entrepreneur.com awarded me with this year? I got named top entrepreneur and visionary of 2018 by one of the biggest publications in the world. the two key words that people used to pin on my back and throw stones at and make fun of me for, one of the largest publications just awarded me for.
Right.
I don't know how the hell I got it. We'll just say that right now. Because there's some heavy hitters on there. Like there's a guy that makes a couple $100 million with pharmaceuticals. I'm like, how the hell did I make it on the list?
Yeah.
But when my publicist called me, he's like, hey, they just reached out. Like, this is huge. It's the second biggest award they give out for under 30 or 40 under 40. He's like, dude, like, this is huge. So it's just funny that anyone listening now, if you're going through hell, if you're going through the muck, or if you're being made fun of, you're worrying about people making fun of you, and you think that you're not good enough, and you let that define who you are, you will never push through the boundaries and status quo to get to winning an award like that. If I would have closed up shop, said, you know what, you guys are right, and I would have just, bowed down to it and, just taken it, I'd be at a 9-to-5 right now. I'm 30. I'd probably be married with a kid, probably living in Wisconsin. No offense to Wisconsin, but I don't want to live in Wisconsin. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so anyone that's listening, take someone like me, that I'm an everyday person, no different than you. I've just been doing this for a while. I've been working 100 hours a week for 9 years now. Like, I've worked circles around people. There's a lot of people that can't catch up because of how hard I work. But I'm no different than anyone. I'm not special. I'm not some Uber, Elon Musk. Like, I'm not that guy, right? I just have different beliefs and different morals and a driving factor. And you can use the chip on your shoulder, but it only gets you so far. So like January, February, like I told you guys, like opening up and being authentic and vulnerable and sharing my story, that was eliminating the chip on my shoulder. Because a chip on your shoulder, you have a grudge, you have resentment, you have hatred. It'll get you to a certain point. But if you guys have ever heard the term, I say it a lot, is whatever got you here will not get you there.
Right. Only get you that. It only got you that far.
So it's like, why not keep hiring business coaches for myself? Like I tell all my coaching clients that are on the fence, because it's not, our coaching program's not cheap by any means. And I'm like, you guys, you can keep doing what you're doing, but it's obviously not working. You're paying bills and you're surviving, but you look miserable right now. You're a fitness coach. You're supposed to inspire and be energetic and all this shit. Like, you look like a walking zombie. They're like, I know. I'm like, I'm telling you, whatever got you here is not going to get you where you're trying to go. You mentioned all these other people you're trying to aspire, and a lot of our potential clients look up to our current clients. And I'm like, you have to understand, that person was right where you are before we started coaching together. They're no different than you. They just trusted the process and made an investment in themselves versus being so scared to make an investment, let the money just sit in your bank account. Like, what use is that? So like when Scott told me it was 120 grand in the phone, I'm like, fuck, okay, well, the money can just sit there, or I can pay it and become a better version of myself. I can inspire more, change more people's lives, and it's already paid back tenfold.
No, that's massive, man. And I think that really drives home the purpose behind having coaches, right? Because that's what coaches do, is they elevate your ability to play the game. I was just having a conversation with one of my coaches about networking and doing the coaching thing. And, that exposure to either, a new thought process or a new system to adopt, being able to embrace a potentially conflicting belief and holding what you hold dear and that new thing that scares the shit out of you as true in both hands.
Absolutely.
Right. That's part of the evolution. Right. And, I just simply asked her, what kind of problems do you want? You can have $15,000 a year problems, or you can have $150,000 a year problems. It doesn't matter what level you're playing, the problems exist. But I guarantee you, the way your perspective on those problems is completely different at this level versus that level. So it's important that when you're looking at justifying the cost, like, what kind of problems do you want? And I think that's a very important question to ask. And more importantly, a better question to answer, as opposed to just sitting there and, like you said, letting the money sit in the bank and living life in cruise control.
Well, it's funny because with how many people I've consulted and coached over the years, hundreds, and it's so crazy that no one's ever asked these people what they want.
Sure.
I'm like, what do you want?
Yeah.
They're like, What do you mean? What do I want? I'm like, it's a very simple question. I'll wait. What the hell do you want?
Yeah.
And they're like, and I ask it in a way where they know it's deeper than just like surface.
Sure.
And they're like, well, like I want to make more money. I'm like, cool. What does that mean to you? And none of them have a vision.
Right.
None of them have a roadmap. They their biggest roadmap is looking at an influencer on Instagram saying, I want that.
Right.
Or a car, or I want $250,000. Like, why? Why do you want $250,000?
Yeah.
Like, I listed out multiple 7 figures. Like, I want us doing $6 million next year in both companies' gross revenue, because that feeds my overall vision. Because I need working capital for the SaaS company. I need to have 45 employees next year. I have all of my dollar amounts attached to a greater why of changing the world and changing the community. That's the way my brain works. It's not like I want to make $6 million so I can buy a new Ferrari next year and be that cool guy. It's no. The next level and stage of who I need to be playing at, I need to keep evolving to it. So when I ask these guys and girls, what's your vision? None of them have been able to answer. So that's why I created like a 15-page visionary course to go through to actually like get them to open up and share. And it's a requirement. They have to write 3 full pages of in-depth detail of their vision for next year.
Nice.
Like, look, like they tear up as they read it, because none of them have ever been asked that.
Sure.
They've been hit. Like, you got to remember, like, in today's day and age, you go on Instagram and immediately we think we're not good enough. You see a better car on the discovery page. You see a better looking girl. You see a skinnier girl. You see a guy with better abs than you. All the advertisements you get hit with, you wake up every day and you're prone with thinking you're not good enough. And then what else? Let's go to happy hour. Let's have a cocktail. Let's go out to the club. Let's smoke. Let's do all these different things to get away from the real world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So many things are going against what is the truth and what's authentic and how to actually build a vision for success. And it's a two-way street. Just because you create a vision does not mean it's a roadmap. You have to then reverse engineer the vision and transfer it over to a roadmap and have it be your step-by-step guidance. So like anyone that's listening right now, if you want to be making $100,000 a year or $250,000 a year, that's great. That is an end goal. But what's your vision? Who do you want to be? What feelings do you want to have? Who do you want to be to the community? What type of legacy do you want to leave behind? Where are you at 1 year from now? And then reverse it, engineer it.
Right.
And I use that as a step-by-step direction. So when I just shared my vision with you guys, I literally have a step-by-step direction. We have project management software, we have spreadsheets, and it lists out all the rocks we have to accomplish within our business or problems we need to fix for us to be able to evolve to the next level. And it goes quarter by quarter.
Okay.
So it's just an ever going, like the list is never going to end.
Yeah.
Right.
Your problems are never going to end. I'll tell you right now, like we were talking before the podcast started, I would give anything to go back to making $5,000 to $15,000 a month with $1,000 a month of overhead. Those were the good days. Now, when you're building successful companies and I have 10 to 12 people that are looking up to me with responsibilities. Everyone's on salary. We're looking at benefits and 401k now. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
I've consulted for companies that have had that, but I've never had to look at hiring an HR salaried position to make sure women feel safe and comfortable. And like, it's getting to a level that I've never been at before personally. So,
but that's growth.
As you evolve, there's going to be different problems. And it's not the problems or the size of the problems. It's the characteristics you choose to use in your thought process and your psyche and who you are to deal with those problems. Like, I still get super stressed, but I deal with my problems at a whole different level of responsibility than I used to do 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
Dude, I love that. I love the level of granularity you're talking about, where you're breaking things down from the high level vision. So I'd look at it sort of like a pyramid.
Absolutely.
The pyramid's the top is this big end goal, and you just have to build the building blocks. But a lot of people miss the building blocks because they have this grandiose vision.
But the funny thing is, every single person in the world knows how a house is built.
Exactly.
You don't see a 3-story townhouse getting put on, muck or sand or grass. Like, there's a foundation, and I'm at fault for it too. So, I can't even point the finger at my clients or people listening saying shame on you, because we've all been there. Right? It still happens to me where, a huge expense comes in. I'm like, all right, we got to launch this campaign. We're like, John, we don't have the foundation for it, but we need to I still go through it day to day, right? Yeah. My team has to kind of pull me out of that and restructure some things and do it correctly versus, trying to make a quick buck or something like that.
I love that, brother.
So before we let you get out of here, man, I want to ask you 2 questions, and you can answer them on any level, mental, physical, spiritual, whatever strikes you right now. And I'll ask them in succession before you answer. The first of which is, what do you do each and every day to feed yourself and kickstart the motivation for the
Great
vision
question.
that you're trying to impart?
Okay.
And then the second question is, what do you do each and every day to fuel yourself and make that motivation, that vision sustainable over the long term?
Okay, so I'll take these from like a morning ritual standpoint or some characteristics that I do. I've been traveling a lot lately, like New York, LA, so my morning rituals are kind of all over the place, right? But my ideal morning rituals is I wake up at 6 a.m. I do meditation for 15 minutes to get my day started. I write in my best self journal. It's been a huge game changer for me. I send them to all my clients that sign up. But I list out my schedule for the day, which I do that the Sunday before. But I know what my schedule is. I list out 3 things I'm grateful for. I list out 3 goals I have, and I list out 3 targets for the day that if I just accomplish those 3 things, I'll be whole at the end of the day. I then go into the spots change periodically. But the complex I live in, Scottsdale right now, is very artistic. It's like orange and gray. So I love getting up and going and reading for an hour, 2 hours. So from like 6:30 to 7:30 or 8:30, I'll read the book of my choice, because that's, my my employees don't get until 9. So I know that I have up until 9 before, if shit hits the fan or I need to be in or there's an emergency. That allows, like, if you think about it, like, you need to start your day every single morning with having control. And this isn't just because I went through the divorce and all that shit I told you before. When you're going to work or the day or coaching clients or on a podcast, like, there's going to be stuff that happens you have no control. If your computer just dies, you have no control over that. If a client cancels, you have no control over that. So the morning, you need to do small little wins, like making your bed in the morning. So like the biggest thing is waking your bed when you first wake up, because it sets your day up for success. Psychologically, you pat yourself on the back. If I go to my best self journal, it's not hard writing down 3 things I'm grateful for. Boom, I just accomplished 2 things for the day. 3, meditation. 4, reading a book. Damn, I'm already on a 4 for 4 roll this morning before I even start work. And boom, it sets me up for success.
Sure.
The thing that I do to fuel me, I need to start eating a little bit healthier to have that feel me.
Okay.
I really love engaging with people on social media. Like, if I'm doing a story or going on a rant or making a post and I see 50, 100, 200 comments and DMs and people coming in that, like, wow, the 10 minutes I just gave up, the little 10 minutes of my life I just gave up just changed how many people's lives. That gives me, if I'm tired, that gives me like nitrous oxide on my blood, where I just start steamrolling. Another thing I do is I love working out at the gym. Fuels me. It allows me to calm down. It allows me to get my thoughts out. I don't like talking to anybody when I'm at the gym, even though it's hard, because when you're in the fitness community, there's always people that want to talk. But I would say the biggest thing I do to become zen or become one is reading.
There you go.
I didn't read as a kid. I didn't read in high school. But reading books is almost like I know I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm reading books of successful entrepreneurs. Like, right now I'm reading a book called Rocket Fuel. It's on like operations, scalability, how to build the correct structure to get to multiple 7 figures, 8 figures, vice versa, vice versa. It allows me to know I'm not alone anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm reading the book and I'm like, oh my God, I did that last week. Yeah. Stupid us. Like, yeah, buddy. Like, I relate to the book now, and it makes me feel like I'm not alone anymore.
Cool.
Another big thing is we just moved office spaces in Old Town Scottsdale, and it's a huge open concept.
Yeah.
I love watching the team engage with each other now.
Yeah.
So it's like we've outgrown 2 offices this year. We're in our 3rd right now, and just seeing like my vision come to life.
Yeah.
And there's actually departments now, like the creative department. There's the timeline and budget department, accounts payable. We have all these different departments that are coexisting with each other, all in the greater sense of changing an entrepreneur's life. And then when the entrepreneur comes in and they get their final product and they're exuberant, and I see my team smile, it's just like, holy shit, what did I really just create?
Yeah.
It's like, it's so much more than a t-shirt or joggers or any type of that stuff. Like, I'm actually creating life again. And it's crazy because my clients start breaking down crying. Like, I had a client this year who broke down and cried because he was in debt and didn't have enough money to visit his little daughter and little son.
Oh, man.
And they live in different states, and he just didn't have the money to go visit them on top of child support. And he listed down in one of his goals is he's like, I want my family back. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, I'm in debt. I don't make enough money to do this, to fly there, to this and that. And in my coaching event when I was in LA for January, I told you guys, I was with Jay. I leave the restaurant. He calls me and he's tearing up. I'm like, dude, like, and he's had a horror. If you think my story is crazy, he's had a crazy life. Yeah. And it's stuff, you know, was in war. So like, I always have to get concerned when someone's like frazzled like that. I'm like, dude, what's up? He's like, you gave me my life back. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I just booked, I don't know how many flights for my daughter and my son to come visit me. He's like, I did it. I'm at 15 grand a month. You've changed my life. My family's back in the picture. I just paid my credit card debt off. Like, I didn't think this was possible. So to be able to have someone do a testimonial video for me and say I gave them their life back. I had another client, 2 clients who were on the verge of divorce. And like we saved a marriage. Like the stuff we do is not just business coaching. Yeah. So that also fuels me to keep moving forward.
Hell yeah.
Dope. And where can everybody in this community go follow you and support you and everything you have going, brother?
Yeah, so on Facebook, I'm Jon Boles Official because some assholes took all my domains for Snapchat and Facebook. So Facebook, my page is Jon Boles Official. I'm going to start being a lot more active on that. We're going to be pushing a lot of content for 2018 and 2019, end of 2018. But I'm really active on Instagram, and that's Jon Boles. So it's JONBOLES.
Dope, bro. Appreciate you, my man.
Appreciate you guys. This is great. I hope we provide some value to the listeners.
Definitely, dude. Definitely.
Much appreciate it. You got a lot going on, and taking an hour out of your day to
anything you guys need. I appreciate it. This is what fuels me, like we just said. Yeah.
Much appreciated, man. For everybody out there in Feel Me Land, get out there, support everything that Jon has going on.
Appreciate that.
If you're at a point in your life where you just need access to level up, use Jon as a resource. He's obviously available to help make that happen. And until next time, guys, feed me, fuel me.